This is the Coaching Life Podcast, episode 64. My name is Chris Stewart, and I'm about to call up my friend Pat Martin, and we're going to have a conversation today. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. It's like pulling teeth getting you to get online.
Yeah, you've been waiting for a long time for me.
Oh, I mean, we have a scheduled time,
and we are 20 minutes ahead of that scheduled time.
I build my week around that time, and then you expect me to pivot. It's ridiculous.
All right, we'll let people believe what they want.
That's exactly what happened.
Hang on, maybe I should go back and read our text messages here just for the record. Let's see, where does it begin here?
All the way at the beginning.
Here it is.
The way at the
would
beginning.
You be able to record at noon instead of 1 p.m.? And this is Pat Martin's answer. Yes, that probably works better for me anyway. Then I gave the old thumbs up.
I was just being a good friend there.
Mm-hmm.
This is embarrassing. You know what else is embarrassing?
What's that?
Major League Baseball.
Some people in Major League Baseball are embarrassing.
Yeah, that's true. I shouldn't throw everyone under the bus.
The way some people behave and react to silly things. And I'm assuming you're talking about a recent game between the San Diego Padres and the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, set that up for us.
Okay, so if anyone who's listening to our podcast doesn't know by now, which I'm assuming that everybody has either heard this story or read about it or watched it either on TV or on games, that it was a Major League Baseball game between with a professional adults playing a game to get paid against between the San Diego Padres and the Texas Rangers. And it was in the 8th inning. The Padres had a 7-run lead in the 8th inning. Bases were loaded. The Rangers pitcher proceeds to throw 3 balls not anywhere near the plate. So 3-0. Bases loaded. Fernando Tatis Jr. is up to bat. The next pitch is down. Well, it's actually not down the middle. It's a little outside. And he clobbered it for a grand slam. And it was also his 11th. I mean, he's leading the league in home runs, I believe, right now, isn't he? With that, it was his first career grand slam. This dude's fun to watch. And the reason he's fun to watch is because he's a young player, very young player, and he has fun. He enjoys the game. And unfortunately, he gets around the bases, congratulates a few of his players, runs by his dugout, and there's his manager standing on the edge of the dugout there. Tingler, that's his name, isn't it? The manager he's a younger manager. Ironically enough, they brought him in. Because they said he was a player's coach. Well, here's the thing: he didn't congratulate him. He just kind of looks at him, right? And people
then
are
throws him under the bus.
Yes. Well, and then his teammate also. I don't even remember which one it was now, but one of his teammates grounds out in one of his at bats in that same inning, and he looks over to the Rangers dugout and he says, "Hey, we'll talk to him. He doesn't know. We'll talk to him." And people who are young people who might be listening to this might be going, well, what are they going to talk to him about? What's wrong? Why is it not okay for him to celebrate hitting a home run, hitting a grand slam in a baseball game? Well, apparently, Pat, we know there's this thing called unwritten rules of baseball. I mean, you and I are, in many ways, purists of baseball. We love the history of the game,
sure,
and we understand what these unwritten rules are. But apparently, there's an unwritten rule that you should not swing at a 3-0 pitch. And this is actually one, I'll admit, this is one that I hadn't even considered before. That you should not swing at a 3-0 pitch when you're up by at least 6 runs after the 6th inning, I think, or if you're up by a lot. And some people can define
I don't even think they defined it exactly.
A lot of people I know define a lot by you're up by more runs than there are outs left in the game, that kind of thing. Those kinds of things. But okay, I've got an issue with this one.
Yeah.
And maybe, thankfully, a lot of people do as well. In fact, the two managers are kind of have gotten bashed ever since that, the comments they made about it. Let's talk about that for a little bit. And then let's maybe talk a little bit. Let's take today's episode and talk about some of those unwritten rules. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Sounds good to me. Maybe, on this specific scenario we're talking about here, we should say, because there's a thought process out there. I would say a strategy that you don't swing on 3-0 pitches. That's probably prevalent in a lot of youth baseball teams and softball teams. That's not really what we're talking about here. Although I don't necessarily agree with that either. Obviously, I think definitely as you get older that changes, and when you have a 3-0 count, you're expecting a strike. That may be the best pitch count in baseball to hit. So
yeah, if you're the hottest hitter on your team, you better not be hopefully your coach is not giving you a take sign on 3-0 when you've got runners in scoring position, right?
Right, exactly. And there might be a situation where you may down a lot of runs late in the game, something like that, nobody on, but still that's not really what we're talking about. We're just talking about the fact that the Texas Rangers their feelings were hurt because they were getting their behinds beat.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they were getting, beat worse.
Right.
And I think, we've said this in the past, but I want to reiterate it. I know, we have, 80 listeners out there, so we're not changing the world quite yet, but maybe it'll spread out. Baseball has unwritten rules. Just because the Major League Baseball makes up these rules don't mean they're baseball's unwritten rules, right?
Exactly.
Major League Baseball could go away at some point in the future, but baseball won't. So the first thing I would like to say to a lot of these guys that are out there complaining that this happened, you're not bigger than baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Just to establish that. But yeah, I mean, we've heard from a lot of players and coaches now that have kind of debunked, the argument. David Ross, the Chicago Cubs manager, came out and said, I don't really have a problem with him swinging at that pitch, that 3-0 pitch at that portion of the game. Did you see what he did last night?
No. Tatis?
Yeah.
No.
They were up 6 runs.
Good. He's still playing the Rangers?
I can't remember.
I'd have tried to put up 20 on him the next night.
Well, it's late. I think it's the bottom of the 7th. He's on second base. They're up 6. He steals third.
Good for him. Yeah. Well, heck, that's another unwritten rule. Anyway, a lot of people will say, "Oh, you're not supposed to steal third with less than with 0, no outs or 2 outs, right?"
Right.
But yeah, we'll maybe get into some of those. But yeah, there are a lot of players that came to his defense. I know Trevor Bauer. He tweeted out, "Hey Tatis Jr."
He was a pitcher, by the way.
Trevor Bauer, who is a pitcher, by the way, he says, "Hey Tatis Jr., keep swinging at 3-0 if you want to, no matter what the game situation is. Keep hitting homers no matter what the situation is. Keep bringing energy and flash to baseball and making it fun. The only thing you did wrong was apologize."
Yeah.
I love that because that's the truth. He was made to apologize, or maybe he wasn't made to apologize, but he was made to feel like he should apologize because his teammates and his coach had to talk to him about this unwritten rule. And it all came about because when that happened, as soon as he hit the ball, the Texas Rangers manager, Chris Woodward, stood up at the edge of the dugout and chirped a little bit out there and, about this quote unquote unwritten rule. And then later after the game in the press conference, this is what he says. And I quote, "I didn't like it personally," Woodward said. "You're up by 7 in the 8th inning. It's typically not a good time to swing 3-0. It's kind of the way we were all raised in the game, but the norms are being challenged. But that, and I end quote. And I listen to that and I think to myself, wah, wah, wah. You are a professional. And basically, you have admitted to the world that your team had no chance of coming back in the 8th and 9th innings of that game. You had no chance of coming back to win that game. And so you didn't want anybody scoring any more runs on you, basically. If you didn't want anybody to score any more runs on you, why didn't you just throw your hands up and say, we forfeit. We're going to save our pitcher's arm here for the last couple innings. We'll just go ahead and forfeit.
Why aren't you throwing your second baseman at that point?
Exactly.
Why is one of your pitchers in the game, even if you've already given up on it and the other team's not supposed to play? And by the way, how are your hitters responding to 3-0 pitches in that situation? Are they swinging? Because are you saying that you're the only team that has an opportunity to try to win at that point?
Right, exactly. That's what you're trying. That's actually what you're saying is we're at this point in a certain point in the game, the team that's winning needs to stop trying to win and give the team that's losing by a lot an opportunity to. I mean, we're not going to get mad at you if you keep trying to win because you're losing, right? It's one of the dumbest things. In fact, I think these kinds of unwritten rules that have to do with running up the score they just need to go away in our minds. They need to go away. People need to grow up and realize that we're out here playing a game in a competition, which means I'm trying to beat you, you're trying to beat me, and my job is to get you out. That pitcher's job is to throw strikes. And you know what? It wasn't Tatis's fault that he couldn't throw a strike within the first 3 pitches. And so, you bet you're behind. I'm sitting on the 4th pitch. I'm going to sit on that, and I'm going to hit it hard. Well, what happens? What's the very next pitch? What do you do with the very next pitch with the very next batter? Threw it behind. Threw it behind him. Send a message. What kind of message you sending that you can't even throw it close to the strike zone in the first 3 pitches? So you got to throw it behind the guy. I don't know. I'm a pitcher, Pat. I grew up a pitcher. But pitchers are some of the biggest crybabies, the biggest prima donnas in the game of baseball. And this is why I love Trevor Bauer, because he's changing that. He wants to change that persona.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't like, a lot of purists don't like it. And I think I'm getting to the age where I'm getting to be an old man, but I'm one of these guys going, no, bring on the Trevor Bauer types. Bring on those guys, because I'm sick of this bull crap that there is an unwritten rule that says I got to stop trying to win the game.
That's absolutely ridiculous. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Especially at the professional level. And I would even say, that trickles down, because you hear people complain about that running up the score in all different sports at all different levels. I think one of the things that involves that is the way that, younger kids, 8U, 10U baseball, softball players run the bases.
Yes.
And, you'll hear, just keep running them, just keep running them.
Well, yeah.
Typically, well, let me evaluate that a little bit. Typically, people are upset because they're getting beat. To me, there's a little bit of a technical issue to that, because I feel like at times coaches are teaching their runners bad habits because they know they can take advantage of, inferior fielders.
Yeah, you can,
or inferior players.
In the keep running mindset, you're allowing your kids to take a risk that isn't very risky in this particular context, because that team can't get you out.
Yes.
So you're taking,
and it's risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's risk you're not going to take as you get older.
Absolutely not.
You know what I mean? So that's not an unwritten rule to me. That's just smart coaching.
It's wisdom.
You don't do it.
Yeah, it's something that youth coaches have to be aware of. Yeah, there is a fine line between. I mean, there are unwritten rules. I believe are more applicable at those lower ages. I think where if you're beating a team 36-0, then it probably. I mean, everybody knows you can steal second base right here, right? That catcher's not throwing you out. But just don't do it. There's something about class, having class. Yeah, there are other things you can work on at that point. But you know what? I don't care what the score is in a Major League Baseball game where the minimum salary is $222,000 a year, which means everybody out there is wealthy and getting to, and it has nothing to do with being wealthy. It has to do with that's your livelihood. That's what you're paid to do. And everybody on the field is paid to do it. There are no 8-year-olds out there. There are people who act like 8-year-olds, like these two managers. Can you tell I'm chapped about this a little bit?
Oh, I am too.
I hate it. And a pitcher throwing behind a guy. Come on, dude. You're the one that walked the bases loaded. If you're that butthurt, then look over at your manager and say, "Get me off the mound. I can't do this." Right?
Yeah. You know what he needed? He needed Coach Stewart to run out to that mound for
at
him.
that moment. Yeah, but instead he got his wuss manager out there defending him and defending that behavior, and not only that, Pat, the Padres manager, coach Woodward. What, I can't remember his first name. Or not Woodward. Woodward was the
Tingler
Ranger.
You're talking about.
Tingler.
Jace Tingler.
Jace Tingler. Yeah, in his press conference at the end of the game, he said this. I've got his quote pulled up now. Just to make sure we get the signs 3-0 in that game is what I want. What do you want to say in response to what Tatis Jr. did? He said, I just want to make sure we get the signs 3-0 in that game. He's young, free spirit, focused on all these things, and that's the last thing we'll ever take away, but that's a learning opportunity. That's it. I think he'll grow from it. And he's like, just so you know, a lot of our guys do have the green light on 3-0, but in this game in particular, we had a little bit of comfortable lead, and we're not trying to run up the score or anything like that. And he had the 3-0, he had the take sign on 3-0. And I'm thinking to myself, oh boy, when you watch the video, you go back and watch the video, you see like after the 2-0 pitch to make it 3-0, Tatis Jr. kind of he stepped back out of the box, took a practice swing, and got right back in the box. So he didn't even look down. He didn't look up anywhere for a sign. He didn't look into his dugout. He didn't look down to third base. There was no sign given to him. And his manager knows that. If there was a sign, he didn't look at it. He didn't see it, right? Unless they just verbalize it to everyone that, hey, when it's 3-0, I really doubt that in a major league dugout that they verbalize that kind of stuff before the last at bat with a 6-run lead or a 7-run lead. But it's just one of those things where that Jace Tingler felt like he had to say something. There's probably no irony that he also spent a lot of his career in the Rangers organization.
Well,
as a younger man.
How about this irony?
But here's the problem I have with it too. I'll finish this thought. You may have spent a lot of your career those may be your old buds over there in that other dugout, but you were hired by the Padres to take up for your players. I'm telling you right now, I am not bowing down to a somebody who's whining and crying and chatting and a little bit hurt, a little bit, because my guy hit a grand slam. And not only that, that's how he, later on in his, when he's having contract negotiations with the Padres, and they look at his stat line and say, well, you didn't hit enough home runs.
Exactly.
Well,
yeah, that's a good
maybe
point.
if I'd have been allowed to
right?
swing 3-0, I'd have hit more home runs, which means I'd have getting paid a little bit more money this year, right?
Right, exactly. That's that was a quote from somebody that, arbitration would say you didn't hit enough home runs. Major League Baseball saying you don't hit that ball, but arbitration will say you didn't hit enough home runs for your next contract. Yeah. Hey, how about this irony? The Rangers haven't been over a 500 ball club in the last 4 years. And by the way, they're 10-12 this year, so they're under 400. And the Padres, this is the first time they've been over 500 since 2010. Okay, so maybe Tatis should go ahead and keep hitting grand slams on 3-0 pitches. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah, there's probably no correlation to the fact that you haven't been a 500 ball club because you got a manager that's more concerned about what the opponent's doing than what your own team is doing.
Yeah,
and that kind of culture trickles down.
I'm pretty sure this is his first year as a manager. But
okay, well,
still,
maybe he's going to turn him around. I don't know. He's not.
I'm
not a fan of his. Can you tell that right now?
No, absolutely not. I mean, what is he doing? How about this unwritten rule? How about this unwritten rule, Coach?
Let's hear it.
Protect your players.
Yeah.
As a coach, protect your players. What about that unwritten rule?
Yeah. I'm telling you right now, you know what disturbs me more than anything is when you watch, if you watch any number of highlight videos that they've made about the situation, you see Tatis Jr., at bat, you see the three pitches, then you see him hit the dinger. He's running around. He's all excited. He's having fun just like he does on all of his other home runs that he hits. And then he's in the dugout. And all of a sudden you start seeing this awkwardness take place where the coach doesn't congratulate him. You see his teammate saying to the other dugout, we'll talk to him. And then you see that same teammate, I wish I could remember who it was, standing there next to him, having that conversation with him. And there's this look on Tatis Jr.'s face like, I'm no longer having fun because I'm not allowed to.
Yeah.
And I hate that. I absolutely hate that. You know, you're being told that you're not supposed to do something that makes this game fun. And we wonder why people complain about the game of baseball, right? Not being fun and kids not wanting to play it or whatever, which I think is a farce, by the way. Every time I hear that, I think, okay, yeah, it's really never died. I mean,
well, coach, but this is what our kids are watching, and this is what our young coaches are watching.
And I think that's
like baseball.
Yeah, I think that's why I get so fired up about it, because I don't want kids to see those kinds of quotes by those managers and hear the people who defend that kind of mindset, that kind of thinking that there are unwritten rules like that. And Tatis Jr. should have looked at that pitch. If that pitch is a strike, okay, what's he do on the next pitch? I mean,
literally,
I don't want them to think that.
What is he supposed to do? Is he allowed
Apparently
to hit a 3-1
supposed to take a
pitch
strike.
over?
Well, his coach said he needs to take a strike there. He said he needs to take a strike there. Really?
To walk in a run. To get an
If
RBI.
it's a ball, yeah.
Well, hey, the pitcher hasn't thrown a strike in 3 straight pitches, so who knows what he's going to do the next time?
Yeah.
I don't know. But if he does take a strike there and it's 3-1, what is he supposed to do at that stage?
Well, I guess if he hits a grand slam on 3-1, that's going to be all right. And I mean, isn't that the weird thing about it? I mean, we probably wouldn't be hearing anything about this today. Still, 3-4 days later, however many days later it's been, we wouldn't be thinking any more about this if he takes strike one, the count's 3-1, and then he hits a grand slam. But because it was 3-0, it wasn't right.
And that makes it even more ridiculous. I actually had the tweet wrote out. It was a short tweet at MLB, embarrassing, but I deleted it. I thought second about it, but
well, it is embarrassing that a couple of their professional managers would basically put a wet blanket on some young players, one of the most dynamic players in the game today, that Major League Baseball needs to be celebrating and promoting and marketing, but instead we're okay with people getting chapped about this and only giving a one. I think they end up issuing a 1-game suspension to Woodward and the pitcher as well for throwing behind the batter, the next batter, even though Joe Kelly got 8 games for it. Throwing behind an Astros hitter.
Did you see Mike Trout get thrown at the other night?
No, I didn't.
He almost got hit in the head 2 pitches in a row.
Probably because he hit a home run.
Probably.
Well, those are some of the. See, that's yeah.
He made a diving catch in the outfield.
And that made a pitcher mad?
No, I'm just making that up. I mean, it seems logical at this stage.
Yeah. Well, let's talk. We've sort of talked about the Tatis thing to death, and probably by the time people are listening to this, they probably had many conversations about it. And also, but what about?
Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead. Definitely.
To me, what the Rangers do there, what they're doing is they're making themselves victims. And I don't think in any walk of life, if you make yourself a victim and you point your finger at someone else, you're going to be successful at anything you do. I think that's a horrible, horrible approach.
That's a great way to put a wrap on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good summary of that. I totally agree. But in the game of baseball, there are lots of these unwritten rules, which means they're not rules because they're not written down. You can't find them anywhere in the baseball rule book. But you will find them in the baseball almanac and in articles and in conversations and things. And I want to see how many you and I can think of to just throw out there. And then if there's any conversation to be had about them, let's do that. I mean, we've been on now for about 25 minutes or so we got a little bit more time. You want to throw out? You want like tag team? You want to throw one out and I'll throw one out? You want me to start?
At the same time?
Well, no, I know. No, like...
Oh, I've got a good one.
Okay, you start.
And I want to know what your thoughts are on it.
Okay. Let's hear it.
You ready?
Yeah.
You never talk about a no-hitter while a no-hitter is being pitched.
So this rule, which a lot of people, I would say everybody who listens to our podcast probably knows this one. I don't know about everybody. Most
Maybe
people
not.
probably, but this is a rule that it's not a rule. It's what this is probably more than a unwritten rule. Well, I guess it is an unwritten rule. It's a superstition.
Yeah.
So if you're asking me what my thoughts are on this, I'm not a big superstition person because and I know the game of baseball and people who are baseball people are real superstitious. A lot of people are. I think that's dying out a little bit, but I think it's more for the young player coming up about routine than it is about superstition. But back in the old days, there were guys who literally believed that if they didn't put their socks on in the same order every game, that it would affect the way they hit. Or if they washed their uniform after a 3-game winning streak, then they would suddenly lose the next game and things like that. And it's like magic, believing in magic, right?
Yep.
Here's my thought on it. To believe in superstition is to give over control. Is to say this is completely out of my control. The way I play is completely out of my control, and I don't believe that's true. And so I don't want anyone relying on any kind of superstition during the game. At the same time, I don't talk about no hitters when someone's got one going on, and I don't know why. It has nothing to do with the superstition. It's just I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I think we know that baseball is by and large is a mental sport. I mean, your mental state has a huge impact on the way that you perform. And when a pitcher is, we'll say, in the zone and he or she is throwing really well, I would say a big part of that is where their mind is at and how they're thinking and just for some to come into the dugout for someone just to say, hey, you're throwing a no-hitter, I think you run a risk of making that pitcher change their mindset a little bit, whether they if maybe it doesn't bother them at all. Maybe it makes them more confident. But in that scenario, if you become a little bit more confident, maybe you miss, out over the plate more than what you want to on a pitch, and there goes the no hitter. On the other hand, it could make you a little less confident. You could, you start feeling a little bit of pressure. So for me, it's definitely not about superstition for me. But I would never endorse, and I would never do it myself. And if I was on a team that we came in the dugout after 3 or 4 innings, and one of my teammates said, "Hey, Chris, you're throwing a no hitter," I'd probably slap him with my glove or something because I'd be like, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" So,
usually a pitcher who's gone that far and is throwing that well in many cases the pitcher is kind of by himself in the dugout, kind of in that zone anyway. My experience has been, that seems to be the case, and everyone just kind of leaves him alone anyway. When you're on a high school team or youth team where he's also hitting, he's more involved in the game in other ways. That's a little different, obviously, but if you got a DH in there for him, then he's probably in the zone.
Right.
But yeah, I'm with you there. I'd say it's more of a mindset thing, a focus thing. You say something about the no-hitter, it starts making him think about all the pitches he already threw versus the next one he's going to throw, and his mindset isn't where it's supposed to be. But I have no belief that if he gives up the no-hitter, it's because some announcer said something about it, or
absolutely
because
not.
No. Because
right,
because there plenty of no-hitters have been given up, and everyone has stayed silent. have not peeped a word.
And the chances are he's going to give up the hit. Right.
The probability is it's going to happen. I mean, otherwise no-hitter wouldn't be that big of a deal.
All right, you give me an unwritten rule.
Okay, so we talked about why pitchers will want to throw behind hitters or throw at hitters, beanballs, things like that. This is one of the unwritten rules that causes that. Don't admire a home run.
Oh, yeah.
So you hit a home run, you hit a ball that hits a sweet spot, it's going out. And you're supposed to drop the bat and start running to first base right away. If you stand there holding the bat, or if you flip the bat, or if you stand and kind of admire it, watch it go over the fence and then run. I don't know what the threshold is there, like how many seconds you're supposed to wait before you start running. But apparently that is an act that is going to cause you to get hit in the back the next time you're up to bat. What do you think about that one?
Well, I would say this is more of a Major League Baseball rule. I don't think there's enough home runs hit in youth league.
Did you watch my high school team that I coached?
What's that?
No,
yeah, but you know what? I mean, how many home runs did you guys hit collectively? Well,
his senior year?
His senior year. 30? 20?
It's probably close to 30.
Close to 30. I mean, still, you're excited at that level. You're excited to hit a home run. So, you probably want to get around the bases. And I've seen Brock come out of the box. I bet you.
Oh yeah, he did.
I would say if he hit a home run, he was probably already.
He did.
He had
six he was halfway to first base.
Yeah. So and at a Major League Baseball level. I don't care. It goes back to another, to the same thing of he hit it. So what's the big deal? But when I think about that, I think about someone. I remember one time in an all-star tournament I was playing in very young. I think it was a 12U or something like that. This was a long time ago though. So, cause I was playing in it, but I remember a kid hitting a home run on our team, and it was a shot. They had no chance of getting him inside the Parker. It wasn't out, so he didn't have time to admire it when it went out. Yeah. He hit it and was running, but after he got around third, he knew it was gone, so he kind of started doing this dance into home plate.
He knew there was no chance of them throwing him out.
Yeah, and so I don't like that, but I feel like that's a coaching thing at that point. The coach is going to pull you aside. Hey, you're kind of making the whole team look like a bunch of dummies by doing what you're doing. We did clean that up. But, hey, again, all these things like this for me, Coach, these guys are major leaguers. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And if a guy hits 450 foot on you, you shouldn't be worried about what he's doing out of the box.
It's that pitcher got a little bit embarrassed, right? It's an issue between the pitcher not liking it, basically, again. Right. Yeah. Let me ask you this. You ever see a pitcher celebrate a big strikeout?
I have.
Let's say that same player who's known for hitting bombs, the pitcher strikes him out in a big situation, runners in scoring position. That's the third out of the inning. You ever see that pitcher pump his fist and celebrate all the way to the dugout? Why is that okay?
Yeah. Now, what I would say is, for me, it kind of gets old if they do it all the time.
Oh, of course. You're talking about admiring home runs? If they're doing it all the time, they're hitting a lot of home runs. Yeah, but
so that the old phrase of act like you've been there before, I think that comes back a little bit. Yeah. But if it's one of the greatest home runs ever hit, Kirk Gibson, right?
He was
that 1987.
He was celebrating down the line,
all the way down, doing the fist pump, right? And we've immortalized that as part of baseball history.
Carlton Fisk against the Cincinnati Reds in Game 6 of the 75 World Series. Yeah. He was kind of waving it fair territory. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm getting goosebumps talking about that, because that's great parts of our game. So, for me, in those situations, Coach, I always go back to, if I'm on the mound in that situation, and I failed. Mm-hmm. What went wrong? What can I do better? Whatever happens with the runner, or the batter happens. The best thing you can do about that,
as an opponent,
strike him out. Strike him out the next time he comes up. That's the best thing you can do.
Let me go to a different sport for a second. Do you like to see a running back do a touchdown celebration dance, or hand the ball straight to the referee, the back judge in the end zone?
I'm all right with same thing. I'm all right with it every once in a while, but if you do it every time, it kind of gets old to me. Yeah. And I don't like it every time. I like the way Jerry Rice went about things. Yeah.
Everybody has their personal preference. Yeah. Of the kind of thing you like to see, but in the grand scheme of things, if the player's having fun, let him have fun. If he's not, thing is, to me, it's fun to just hand the ball. To me, it's fun to hit a home run, drop the bat, and run around the bases. It's fun to strike a guy out and trot to the dugout without saying a word about it. For some other guy, it might be more fun to shout out, yes, as you walk off to the dugout, or to coordinate some kind of dance or grab someone's popcorn and dump it all over your face.
Hey, I'll give you one, though. I'll give you a good scenario in a celebration.
Okay.
If you're down like 4 touchdowns and as a defense, you get a sack, get your butt back to the line.
Yeah. I agree with you there. I agree with that.
That's one there.
Yeah, because that's a little embarrassing. That was a great individual play, but your perspective is a little off right now because your team is
exactly, because that's a me thing right there at that point, right?
Yeah. And maybe, I don't know, maybe people who are listening to us would go, that's a little inconsistent, guys. If they're having fun, what's the big deal? Well, if it's about having fun, it's about having fun.
In my opinion, you shouldn't be having fun if you're down 4 touchdowns. You should be, focus a little bit more on
that's
what
the
you
truth.
Need to do better.
There comes a time when if the team and the team's success is what matters to you, then I shouldn't see much of a smile on your face, really, and I shouldn't see you laughing and doing that kind of thing. I get that.
I mean, to a certain degree, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's I don't know.
You always want guys to have fun, but you always want them to, as a spectator, you want to think when you want to know when you're watching the game that player is more about his team's success than his personal success.
Yes.
And it doesn't appear that he is in that moment.
Yeah, and trust me, to everyone listening out there, this isn't me, complaining about other teams necessarily, because as a Browns fan, as a Cleveland Browns fan, I've seen a lot of sacks when we've been down 4 touchdowns, right? So I don't like it, for my team to do it, let alone for other teams to do it. So it's legit.
That's right.
How about this one? I got a different one.
Another unwritten rule.
Yep.
Okay.
Pitcher's throwing a no-hitter again.
Okay.
It's late in the game. Batter lays down a bunt.
Yeah.
If you want to talk,
that's a tough one.
We're about to revisit that inconsistency with people listening out there. They're probably going to hear some inconsistency here, at least from me.
I don't like it.
No.
But again, it's still my job as a defense to get him out.
Yeah.
I know you're not expecting it as a defense, which is why he's doing it.
Yeah. Well, let me say this though. I think it's situational. I think if it's a 1-0 game, you better.
Oh, absolutely, it. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
If it's 6-0
in the 9th,
that's bush league. Get off my field. You may get one in the back after that. You know what I mean? The next 3 guys might. I don't know. But I don't like that.
It is. I'm with you there, Pat. But I do think it's inconsistent. I think you and I are being inconsistent in that mindset, because if we're hard line, if we walk a hard line, it's the defense's job to get them out, and they're supposed to keep trying. And how do you score runs? You score runs by getting on base. Yeah. Anything can happen at any point in the game. Baseball's not played with a clock. So you got to go all the way to the end, the very last pitch, the very last out. And we have seen a lot of runs having been scored with 2 outs in an inning.
But you're going to have to hit in order to win that game.
At some point, you're going to have to hit. But you're also going to need a base runner. Yeah.
You are. My team will never bunt to break up a no-hitter unless it's a 1 or 2 run game.
That's a good way to put it. If I'm coaching, my guys will know that we don't do that. But I also probably need to check myself if I get mad if somebody does that against me because of my other views.
I've got another one. Oh man,
that's probably the toughest one so far, I think.
I've got one that I absolutely lost my stuff over.
Okay.
This is 12U.
All right.
We're down 7 runs. My 4-hole comes to the plate. Nobody on base. They intentionally walk him.
12U.
12U.
Down 7.
Down 7.
So the team that intentionally walked him is ahead 7. Last inning, you said?
There's a time limit on the game, too, so we're probably not going to get that many at-bats. So, I know it wasn't the last inning, but it was getting late.
Is this a tournament game then?
No tournament game, season game. Nobody on base. They intentionally walk him.
Well, let's deal with it at 12U first, and then we'll take it up another level.
Right.
At 12U, you better have a really darn good reason for intentionally walking a 12U kid, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm not saying I would never do it. I'm just saying it better be in a tournament game where it really means something to these kids. And if you're going to employ a strategy that you're going to walk a kid I can see that. I mean, it's part of baseball. If it happens to them at a young age, then they'll learn to expect it as they get older. That situation that you just described is not one of those times. Definitely not. Yeah. I would have probably had words for the other coach as well.
I had a lot, but it was a coach that didn't coach a lot, and honestly, he's a pretty nice guy. So I think it was more of an experience thing than anything else. But I didn't realize it at the time, and I did have words. I had a lot of words.
Yeah,
and I don't regret it because you know what I was doing in that case. You know what I feel like I did. I feel like I was standing up for my players.
Well, sure, yeah. Well, let's take that. Let's do this. Let's add 4 more years onto those players' lives, and now they're in high school playing a regular season game. We'll say it's a league game, so they're playing a conference game in high school, and this exact same scenario happens. They walk your best hitter late in the innings, and they're up by 7 runs. Do you feel the same way?
I'm still not happy about it. I can tell you that.
I probably wouldn't have nearly as big of an issue with that because the stakes are
Why?
different.
What are you
the stakes are different at that age group.
Come on, though.
You're playing for state title every year. That's a big deal to these kids.
If you're playing for a state title, but if giving up a 1-run home run late in the game,
I'm just saying
when you're up a lot of runs.
I'm not saying I'm going to do it. I wouldn't even conceive of that thought if I'm the coach that's ahead. Yeah. But if I'm behind and somebody decides to do that to me, I might roll my eyes, but I'm not going to get as upset as I would at 12 years old. It'd be like one of those things like, okay, sorry. I mean, we played against a team one time where they intentionally walked we had a kid named Brendan Sano. He's a pretty consistent hitter, and they employed a strategy sort of like Barry Bonds. Remember when Barry Bonds was getting walked no matter what the situation was? Whenever he came up, they decided that they were going to walk Brendan every time he came up. And that's kind of when we started putting him in the 2-hole. I actually let him off at some point, sometimes because he had that same thing. He did. He got walked a lot, even in like 12U ball and stuff like that. So I started making him our leadoff hitter. Okay, if you're going to walk him, he's going to be the first runner on base. But it's happened. Let me tell you this story. This is a funny one. Yeah. We had a league game that had gotten canceled earlier in the season, and so we needed to make it up. You have to make up all your league games. This was in 2017, so it was at the end of the season. At the end of the year, we were in the tournament play. Everybody was pretty much done, except for a handful of teams that were still playing in the tournament. We had just won the district tournament, and we're getting ready. So it was between the district tournament and the regional tournament. So we were getting ready for our first game of the region, but we had about a week span of time before that first game, that regional semifinal. So our AD asked me, hey, Vinton County can play you guys during that week. Would you want to do that? And I said, yeah, go ahead, put it on. It'll give us a chance to play some of our younger guys, maybe get our older guys, an at bat or two, but I'll just go ahead and play the younger guys And he's like, okay, I just want to make sure you weren't concerned about getting anybody hurt, anything like that. I said, no, I'm never thinking like that. Anyway, we're gonna play. We need to get this game in. This perfect time to get it in. Vinton County's probably wanting to. They've been done forever. I mean, they've been wanting to get their season done. We have to play these games, so we will. So we did. We made up a lineup where I actually pitched a guy that really hadn't pitched much at all. He was one of our catchers and a third baseman, and really didn't pitch in high school. But he pitched a really darn good game through about 5 innings, and put other guys in other positions. We actually had some JV players up with us during the tournament, so we played those JV players. We didn't start any of our big bombers. All right, so any of our big hitters, we didn't start them to play. Well, Vinton County we started winning the game. So we went up, but then Vinton County made a little comeback, all right? And they started to get to where they're winning the game. And we're along the 5th inning, 6th inning. And so their pitcher puts the leadoff runner on base. And I think they were up by like 2 or 3 runs at this time. And he puts the leadoff hitter on base. And then the next couple guys that are coming up in the order, they were not hitting very well. And so what I decided to do was I said, hey, we're going to go ahead, and this would be a perfect time to give some of these other guys, our which would normally be our starters, our big sticks, a pinch hit. So they're going to pinch hit, and then you're going to re-enter and go right back in the game. We're going to try to retake the lead here. So I used Sano, right? So we put Sano in to pinch hit. Guess what the coach did? Intentionally walked him. Yep.
Wow.
So I'm like, all right. I put Brock in to pinch hit. Next guy. Runners on first and second, no outs. Intentionally walked him.
Wow.
Bases loaded. I said, okay, all right, bases loaded. Brody Rogers, you're pinch hitting. Brody Rogers comes in. Here's a chance. This is a guy who led our team in home runs that year, right? Yeah. Bases loaded. Coach is like, all right, we're up by 2. Intentionally walk him. He intentionally walked, because when we announced him, we said, they're going to the game, and then the other player is going to re-enter, and so he got intentionally walked. He walked a run in. We used up all of our pinch hitters, and then they ended up actually winning the game by 1 run. And wow. It was funny, yeah. We got beat by the last place team in our league, but we went to the regional final that year. And the coach just came over and he's like, man, I hope this doesn't destroy your guy's psyche going to the regional tournament, because that was not my intention at all. I said, no, coach. You're here to win the game. Our guys are going to be fine. I mean, we know what our goals are. I said, congratulations on the win. I mean, we still won the TVC. It was our one league loss that year, but it was really kind of a funny thing. But the strategy worked for him. He knew. I mean, that was because the chances were one of those guys was going to get us back in the game.
I don't think I would have removed him. I think I'd have left him in.
Well, they probably weren't going to get up again anyway. I mean, you never know. It actually may have been the very last inning. It may have been the 7th when I did that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because in my mindset, I knew this is just going to be an entry and re-entry type thing. It's a funny story. It didn't make me mad. I just thought to myself, that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
I have intentionally walked batters, even at younger levels, in tournament play, or when I feel like the situation calls for it. I've never walked a big hitter with runners on first and second. I've never, if first base is open and it makes more sense to go ahead and fill it. I feel like that's normally when I walk a hitter.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If you're in the last inning, you're in the bottom of the 7th, for example, and you're up by 1 run, and there are runners on first and second. Well, that runner that you walk on to first base doesn't mean anything anyway. You're just setting up a force.
Or you're getting killed.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's just trying to stick around for another inning,
right?
But yeah. Okay, next, you got any more?
I do have one that I'll throw out there to you.
Okay.
Excuse me. Do you do this if you're down by a few runs going into the 6th or 7th inning, like late in the game? Do you tell your kids to take a strike?
Depends.
That's an unwritten rule. Take a strike when you're behind. Why? Why do you do that?
Well, I mean,
I've
the
had
idea
people get
is-
on to me before because I don't typically do that.
Well, okay, let's talk about it, because the idea is that, well, let's hope that, we can manufacture some base runners with the pitcher walking us, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that is we know, and people that look at the statistics know, that the more strikes you get on you, the harder it is to get on base.
Yeah,
So,
that's there's actual data that shows like how often a person typically will get a hit if you have strike one. Basically they say you can basically estimate that your batting average goes down 100 points if you take strike one.
Yeah. So for me, it would depend on the pitcher, I think. And if the pitcher throws a lot of balls and we're down some runs, maybe. Or it would depend on my team too. What kind of team do I have? Do I have a team that hits well with two strikes? But yeah, I would say generally no. I don't follow that, because I want my hitters to jump on a first strike pitch. I feel like that's the best chance. If you hit a first pitch strike, I feel like that's the best chance you have of getting on base.
Yeah.
So strategic. Yeah. I don't even, for me, it's not even about an unwritten rule.
It's one of those strategic unwritten rules, but I still don't think there's enough strategy. There's not enough positive outcome from that, I don't think, to warrant it as a rule across the board that we're just going to do this all the time. I mean, I know a lot of coaches just do this all the time. I mean, hey, we're down by a run in seventh inning here. We're all taking a strike. Well, what if your 3, 4, and 5 holes are coming up, right? I mean, he takes that one strike. It could have been one swing of the bat. He could have tied it up. I don't necessarily. And again, I guess we're talking about situations, because if you got a guy coming up who has struggled the whole game. He's swung through a bunch of stuff. He's rolled over stuff. This pitcher's just got his number. Then you might say, okay, I'm going to have this guy take a strike, but not across the board. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
You got any more?
Yeah. How about don't let your 3, 4, or 5 hole bunt?
Oh, is that an unwritten rule?
Well, no. I mean, it's out there, but to me, it's not. Here's the thing:
like people actually, like, you think that's fairly universal? Like,
well, I say 3, 4, and 5 hitter. I would say it's it's like if you have a power hitter up,
he should never bunt.
He should never bunt. And I think the idea is the defense knows that the kid's going to, or the player's going to hit the ball hard. So they're expecting, a hard shot. Whereas if you bunt it, it kind of takes advantage of. Yeah. But isn't that what a bunt is?
Right.
I mean, isn't that the whole concept of a bunt? You're not bunting always in situations when the defense is expecting a bunt. That's called a sacrifice.
And I'm never doing that. I want to try to bunt it someplace where they're not expecting it to go every time.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see where that's could be something that someone might. I think it's a little ridiculous. I mean, if the situation is right, then I'd say whatever it takes to be successful in that given moment. And if that means having your 4-hole bunt, then or 3-hole bunt. I mean, we're seeing it now, even in Major League Baseball, where there was so many defensive shifts, where people are getting mad about hitters being able to hit against the shift, like just kind of half swinging. If a guy's lefty and they're shifting him to the right side of the field, just kind of half swinging and just rolling one down the third baseline. Mm-hmm. And people are like, oh, okay. Well, that's, you put yourself in that situation.
Sure. How about an unwritten rule of not playing your shortstop on the left side or the right side of second base?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. How many times have you seen? We talk a little bit about Randy Dobnak. Some of the hits that he gives up, if you notice, are balls to left-handed batters that are slow rolling ground balls to the left side of the field, and they're playing a daggone shift. Do they not realize every ball that kid throws tails away from a left-handed batter? Everything he throws, unless he throws a curveball, everything he's throwing is going away from a left-handed batter. But they're still playing lefties to shifts. I don't get that.
Yeah, I hear you. That'd be interesting to know what Randy thinks about that.
Yeah, it's got to be frustrating because you give up a ground ball. I mean, he did that in the playoffs last year against Judge.
Yes.
Remember? That's what
I feel
started that rally. Because
I feel like it happened to him all year last year.
I know. He got judged to hit a ball off the end of the bat to second base, and guess what? There wasn't anybody playing second base.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure they have data, to back
I'm sure
up
they
that
do.
strategy.
I'm sure they do. Yeah, I'm not liking it if I'm a pitcher, because my job is to get them to hit ground balls. And if you're in position, we get that out.
Yeah.
I think I'd want to say something about it if I was a pitcher, but they're smarter people than you, I guess.
And why did you say they're smarter people than you? Talking to
smarter
me.
people than us in general. Me.
Oh,
you.
okay. I got you.
If you're the pitcher, yeah. I don't know. There's a whole list of unwritten rules that you can. If you type them in Google, if you guys want to have fun with it, I mean, you can go find websites that'll give you, the ones that we've talked about and many more. They seem to be endless, and some of them are really silly. Others, as you can tell by our conversation, aren't as silly as much as they are strategic. Either mentally or even physically, but. The ones about showing up the opponent and things like that, I think it has more to do with just being a classy player, being someone that respects your opponents, respects the game. Don't show up the umpire, things like that. Catchers that are trying to frame pitches that are balls, things like that, and that are just not. That's another kind of unwritten rule, that kind of thing.
It's more of a personal behavior thing.
It is.
Don't do anything that's going to embarrass yourself.
Yeah.
And on top of that, if you're playing hard and having fun, I mean, I don't know how you can take anything away from anyone that's doing that. And that's right. That's what, to me, that's what Tatis is. I feel like Bryce Harper kind of went through the same stuff a few years ago.
Yeah, he absolutely did.
Yeah.
It's almost like the game wasn't ready for that kind of a player. I mean, like when I say the game, I'm talking about maybe the people who vote for the Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame ballots, basically. I mean,
let's not even get started on that.
Yeah. How can Griffey Jr. get someone to not vote for him as a first ballot or a unanimous Hall of Fame?
It was only one. You know why? Here's an unwritten rule: you can't have a first ballot.
Unanimous vote,
first ballot Hall of Famer. So one person had to vote no.
Yeah,
give me a break.
That's so dumb, isn't it? So dumb.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yep. So I guess to put a wrap on it, what do you think about unwritten rules in general?
Well, I think some of them are legit. I think. Some of them are useful and make sense, and other ones aren't. That's my thought. What about you?
Yeah, I concur. I would say that if the unwritten rule is something that is causing you to take your focus off of the task at hand, which is enjoying playing the game in a competitive way, where you're trying to win the game and have fun while you're doing it, then it's probably need to rethink this unwritten rule. And when you are trying to hold somebody else to an unwritten rule, like somebody violated you, then you're being exactly as you mentioned earlier, Pat. You're putting yourself in the role of a victim, which is just, you don't want to ever go there anyway. And it's not a good look. It's not a good example to set, and it's certainly not. I just don't think that these two managers. I think these two managers made a huge mistake.
Man, me too. That's exactly the way I feel. I'd like to hear from people, though. If they disagree with us,
Yeah.
Might even bring them on, have them as a guest.
Heck yeah.
We could argue this out.
Yep.
One of us could be the arbitrator. We could be the person in the middle, so that it's not a stacked argument.
Have a moderator.
That's what I was looking for.
Basically an impartial moderator, like all the moderators are during presidential elections. Is that what you're saying?
That's it. Yeah. That's it. We're not going to go there, though.
Yeah.
Not today, anyway.
Not ever.
Coach, it's good talking to you.
Really good talking to you as well. Another episode down.
Thanks for joining us.
64 in. Yeah.
64.
Yes.
See you at 65.
See you at 65.